Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to do the review of the Doxa Sub 200 that I have on loan from my friend Random Rob. And guys, I'm going to shamelessly plug his channel. He's a good friend of mine. He makes down-to-earth, no-nonsense watch content. And so if you haven't checked out his channel, go ahead and check him out. Give him a subscription. Look at some of his videos. Really gracious of him to send me this Doxa that he purchased. Now, it's not my watch, so I'm not going to be probably higher on it than I should, but I'm not going to be low on it either. I'm going to try and be really objective here and take a look at the details. We're going to do macro video. We're going to take a look at the movement, and I'm going to give you guys just straight up my opinions of the watch. And coming from the perspective of a Doxa lover, I've owned some of their other references. The 50th anniversary 300 in orange, that one was a beautiful watch. And I've also owned the Diving Star Poseidon edition, which was really cool. That one is under the 300 name, but it's a 1200 case in layout. So I do have some experience with this brand, and I'm happy to spend a little bit of time here with the Sub 200. It kind of burst onto the scene in mid 2019 because Doxa was coming out with a modern reference that was more affordable than what we're used to seeing from this brand. So this one retails at $990 on bracelet. And it comes in a wide range of colors. Again, this one is Diving Star Yellow. And I've got to applaud Doxa on their use of bold colors, right? It's hard to work with bright, vivid pastel colors and do it in a pleasing way in a tool watch. You know, I think that's difficult to do, and they do a nice job with it. So as you guys can see here from this macro shot, the color is bright and vivid. There is a small amount of texture to the dial. The printing is sharp and clean. We do have applied markers here. We do have a lacquer finish on this handset. And overall, it looks very pleasant. Now, I'll put some dimensions here on the screen and kind of reference the way it fits. It's a bit deceptive than the specifications would indicate. I feel like this wears closer to a 40 than a 42. And in fact, here's a shot of this next to a couple 40mm Rolexes that I own. You guys can see this definitely has a more diminutive look, and I would say that translates to the way it wears on wrist. Now, my wrists are 7.25 inches in circumference. I like the way it wears. I think it has good presence, a good weight. I am a big fan of the beads of rice style bracelet. Each one of these beads here, or grains of rice, is a separate piece of stainless steel. So you do get a very nice drape around the wrist. And Doxa is using screws to fasten each one of these link sets to the next piece. So that is really nice to see. I think another reason why it wears well is it has a relatively short lug-to-lug length. In fact, the lugs almost protrude out at a perpendicular angle to the case back here. So it's a very short wear, and a lot of the height of the overall dimension is coming from this beautiful box sapphire crystal. It's made to look like vintage acrylic, even though this is sapphire, and there is a level or a layer of anti-reflective treatment on the underside of the crystal. So I like the way it wears. I like the bold use of color. I like the wrist presence. I really like the bracelet. And you guys will notice this does carry 4 different micro adjustment holes, a milled clasp, and a pressed metal dive extension here. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of that, but I think overall the execution is sharp, it's nice, and it's easy to see the quality here. Now let's talk about the retail price, $990, which again really kind of piqued watch fans' interest. Like, hey, I can buy into Doxa sub $1,000 and get a vintage inspired reference. Again, this watch is paying tribute or an homage to a 1970s design, the 11804 from Doxa, and I'm going to drop a picture of that in here. Now, that watch from the 1970s, the supplier of the case that Doxa used was the same place that Omega used to supply their Seamaster cases, their Speedmaster cases. And so is this an homage? It is, right? Twofold, really. This modern Sub 200 is paying homage to that vintage Doxa, which was paying homage to Seamasters and Speedmasters of the era and the previous era. So it's got some interesting design history here, and I like the design language, the twisted lugs, right? The way they arc down and curve, and the delineation between the brush and polish finish, I think is really attractive. The one place where I think it's a bit odd on this sub 200 is the way the bracelet connects into the case. We have a 20 millimeter wide bracelet. The end link is 19, the lug width is 19, and that end link really comes in at a perpendicular angle. So if you look at it, from the side profile, it really looks a bit odd, and it's a love it or hate it element of the design. I'm not really a huge fan, but I'm not going to knock it. Now let's talk about the movement. Doxa on their website states they're using an ETA 2824-2 that they decorate. Now I got permission from Robert to take it to my watchmaker and open it up and do it properly, right? Get the pressure test afterward, make sure everything is ship shape. And so this is what's inside the watch. This is an ETA 2824-2. It is not decorated, it is not upgraded. It does have the Inca Block shock protection system. And I think maybe if Doxa, I don't know, maybe they consider putting their name on the rotor decoration, but I wouldn't consider this decorated. I was kind of expecting and hoping to see some beautiful engine turn perlage, some Geneva striping, maybe black polished screws or blued elements to the screws and stuff. But no, this is a base level when it comes to the finish work. So Doxa may want to update their website here in a little bit, but I will give them props for going with an ETA movement and doing some nice positional variation, when it comes to the regulation. So this one has been pretty accurate. Just on the hair end or the tail end of chronometer specifications, I'm getting plus 5 seconds per day. And I think that's pretty decent, especially for a sub $1,000 price point. Now here's the question. Do I think it's worth the money? I know I'm gonna, some of you will agree with me, some of you I may trigger here, but I don't think it's worth $1,000. That's not to say it's a nice watch, that's not to say that this isn't a nice watch, because I think it is a nice watch. It's very enjoyable, but if I'm gonna be spending $1,000 or close to $1,000 on a Doxa, I'm gonna up the budget a little bit and I'm gonna go with the 1200 or I'm gonna go with the 300 and really enjoy some of those more original designs that I think are more iconic, right? When I think of Doxa, I'm thinking of the 300, I'm thinking of the 1200. And I've owned those pieces. I've owned a 300 and a 1200. And I can say from personal experience, they are nicer, right? The bezel action's nicer, the lume is nicer, the detail work is nicer. Some of them, like if you're getting a 50th anniversary edition, they will be a certified chronometer and you will get the results from the COSC printed on a piece of paper, which I think is really nice. So I would say, no, if I'm spending $1,000, I'm going a little bit more and I'm gonna get one of their 1200s or 300s. But if I found a really good pre-owned price on a 200, I think it's a nice pickup, especially for the colors that they're using, the ETA movement, the beads of rice bracelet, the way it wears and fits. Like if you can't wear some of their bigger watches, well, this one is a good one to consider if you have smaller wrists, because it does wear more like a 40 than a 42, if that makes sense. Now, any other negative points before we wrap up the video? There's just one. I think Doxa's done a nice job. Hopefully you've been able to see the quality here throughout the course of this video. But the biggest disappointment for me has been the luminescence. There's a very thin printing of superluminova here on these applied markers, and it's supposed to be in this bezel insert too. Doxa is using a sapphire crystal over the bezel, but you guys can see the printing on the bezel is almost non-existent. I wouldn't even advertise this as a lumed bezel because it is so poor. So that's really the only negative aspect in my eyes, is the luminescence is very disappointing. But if you can get past that, or again, if you can find one at a good price, I think it is a really fun pickup. I am a fan of Doxa, and I'm looking forward to future releases from this brand. I think they could be a lot more popular than they are. I know they have kind of a niche cult following, but with their history, their designs, the way they can work with bold colors, the beads of rice bracelets, the fact that they use ETA movements, I think with some changes to their lineup and constant production, I think they could be an even more beloved brand by us crazy watch idiot savants. So guys, thanks for taking the time to watch today. Let me know if I missed anything. Let me know if there's something you'd like me to further clarify here in the comment section. Big thank you to you, Robert, for lending it in, and we'll see you guys in the next video.